Nothing makes me happier than diving deep into relationships with all of you. So let's talk about Love is Blind, Episode 3. Hi, I'm Dr. Pam, therapist and passionate couples counselor, and today's takeaway is this. Many of you are commenting online that this season is boring, and there's a reason. And it's the same reason so many real-life relationships feel unfulfilling. So I'm going to break down why some of these dates lack real connection and uncover why some relationships naturally deepen over time while others stay surface level and fizzle out. And I'm going to talk about how you can recognize when you're seeking validation over connection, when you're mistaking flattery for authenticity, and even getting caught in a love triangle like Lauren, David, and Molly. And have you noticed how Madison acts differently with Alex and Mason? I'm going to break down why that happens, talk about attachment challenges, and explain the dynamics in each relationship. So let's just dive right in.
You said you get confused when you leave our date, so I was like, what does that mean? Has the connection bit changed for him?
Meg, I've never connected with anyone really the way that I've been connecting with you.
Okay.
She asked this question not only because she wasn't sure exactly how Mason felt after leaving a date, but also because she knows that he is seeing someone else. And let me just show you what we know is going on behind the scenes before I say more.
They're different, obviously, but I really like both. Oh yeah, just in their different ways.
So we know that he is torn between two women, and this is how Meg described how she feels.
Not me. I feel like I'll be happy that he found his person.
Yeah.
Like, you're so cool. Like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna be disappointed. I'm definitely gonna cry.
This feels like surface level dating like we did in high school, not dating to find a lifelong partner. That's one reason why some of this is boring. Who wants to watch young people date? I'm not saying that they are teenagers dating, but when Meg says that she would be happy for him because he is just so cool, that's not love. And that's not even a deepened connection. Love isn't just about admiring someone. It's about deep emotional connection and a desire to truly build something together. And she doubts if he feels connected with her. If you find yourself questioning whether someone truly wants to be with you, that uncertainty is already your answer. And when Mason tells her that he has never connected with anyone like he has connected with Meg, we know that's not the case, and so do both of them. If they want to move past this surface level connection, they need to engage in deeper, more vulnerable conversations. Instead of engaging in compliments or idealized, meaningless statements, they should explore each other's fears, past relationships, values, and long-term goals. There are many kinds of intimacy in a relationship, but when it comes to Meg and Mason, I don't see any intimacy at all. That kind of unfulfilling relationship is bound to fizzle out, which is why some of you, as the viewer, are referring to some of these dates as boring. Because if they are not invested in each other, you won't feel invested in them.
I feel more confident.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really like this guy. Like, I like where I feel like this could go.
Yeah.
I have no idea why she feels that way. It seems like she's confusing flattery with authenticity. It's easy to feel flattered by compliments, but true connection happens when we feel truly seen for who we are. That being said, being seen takes time in a relationship. It doesn't happen right away. However, it can come in stages. For example, if someone tells you, I don't know, I can really see that you seek to understand another person's point of view. Don't just take that as a flattering compliment. Instead, reflect and ask yourself, is this really true about me? Because that is when you know that someone truly sees you and not just flattering you. In the early stages of a relationship, we can't expect to be fully seen, like I said, but we can pay attention to those moments that gradually build into that deeper understanding. And none of that is happening here. It's all flattery.
I feel like you're not even real. You're just saying what I am thinking. I genuinely am just more confident whenever we get out of the pods.
Okay, I just needed to hear that. I feel like I have not connected with anyone like this in a really long time.
They are not talking about anything meaningful or even personal for them to build a foundation in a relationship. Meg feels giddy, and I completely understand feeling giddy in the beginning of a relationship. However, giddy doesn't last. If there's nothing deeper underneath, the connection will fade just as quickly.
I want you to be with the girl that like you truly are like, she lights me up. I could see this forever.
Yeah.
Like we're choosing a partner for life.
Exactly. This is the whole point of being here. How's things going in the girl land over there?
Oh my God, it's getting real, Mason.
This doesn't even make any sense. So I want you to be with whoever makes you happy, but choose me. This is exactly what we did when we started dating as teenagers, offering empty platitudes to seem like a nice person while still wanting to be picked. It's not real vulnerability. It's manipulative and completely lacks authenticity. And let me just say something about authenticity. We should gradually show ourselves over time. Authenticity isn't laying out everything about who we are as soon as we meet someone, because we need to know if this is someone that we can trust. That grows over time. There's a huge disconnect for them. They say that they understand that they're choosing a lifelong partner, but their actions and conversations don't reflect that. Instead of engaging in meaningful, intentional conversations to build a foundation, their interactions stay on the surface. For example, when he asks, "What's going on over there in Girlland?" and she says, "It's getting real," there's no depth, no vulnerability, no discussion of value, just vague words that reveal nothing about who they truly are. The question is, why are they avoiding deeper conversations? Are they afraid of exposing who they are? Do they fear rejection if they reveal part of who they are? Or do they simply not know how to date in a way that fosters real connection? I see insecurities in Meg, but instead of opening up about them, she only seeks reassurance to find out if he's still interested. Where does that insecurity come from, and why does she latch on so strongly to flattery? Flattery should be authentic. When you compliment someone, it should carry meaning, not just a generic, "I've never connected with anyone like I have with you." If someone said that to me early on in dating, it would raise a flag of inauthenticity. Real connection isn't about saying the right words. It's about showing up with honesty, depth, and a willingness to be truly seen. After all of this, she asks him a question about sex. Let's watch.
Do you plan on having sex there, or would you wait until you get home?
I would definitely plan on having sex there.
I haven't had sex in a long time, actually.
Really?
When we got here and we're talking about it, I was like, damn, I cannot wait to like have sex with like a partner again. Like,
wow.
It's just such a fun thing to do.
This conversation lacked any emotional intimacy for both of them. Remember, I said there's different kinds of intimacy. So no emotional intimacy. The conversation goes on when Meg asks about his fantasies. Here's the problem. There is a lack of emotional availability, lack of vulnerability, and a lack of authenticity, which means this would likely be a very short-lived marriage if they were to marry. A marriage without emotional depth is unsustainable, or at the very least, it's an unfulfilling relationship. Without emotional intimacy, they will lack sexual intimacy. They could ask questions like, "What do you imagine the most challenging part of marriage?" Or, "What are your deepest fears about marriage?" Or, "What's something you've never told anyone about what you truly need in a partner?" These are conversations that build emotional intimacy and a real foundation for a lifelong partnership. Okay, let's talk about Madison and Alex.
I know you have maybe like some preconceived notions of me, but I just wanted to show you that like I'm not that person anymore. You know, just like in the same way that like you used to be anxiously attached, I used to be avoidantly attached.
I don't know why she believes that they are no longer anxiously and avoidantly attached. I mean, you can grow and change your attachment style with a lot of work, but they actually do slip into patterns of attachment styles in their interactions.
And we as humans can grow and learn, and get kind of hurt when you're like, I don't know if I'm dating you because I've dated you before. And I was like, ow.
Yeah.
Hearing about like some of your past experiences, I'm not that person.
Well, I believe you and I trust you.
A common dynamic in anxious avoidant relationships is that the avoidant partner ends up reassuring the anxious one. She gave him barely in to prove that she's not that person. But what does she actually think Alex sees in her? Rather than assuming his perception and reacting to it, she would benefit by exploring how he truly sees her. If she's constantly trying not to be what she thinks he sees, she risks losing her authentic self. And she should also be mindful of falling into a pattern of reassuring him, as that could reinforce an unhealthy dynamic. She is trying to reassure him by saying that humans can learn and grow, and convince him that she's not that person that he fears her to be. It's important to shift from reacting to assumptions to understanding each other's perspectives, because that would create a more genuine connection. And in this clip, Madison talks about how she manages stress. Oh boy.
All I can do is really snack for myself. When I get stressed, I can't eat at all. I can tell you exactly when it started.
His anxiety is triggered. He reacts immediately to any sign of emotional challenge in Madison. The fact that she shuts down when she's stressed is deeply unsettling for him, not because of what it means for her, but because of how it impacts his own sense of security. Instead of holding space for her experience, his mind jumps to fear. What does this mean for me? Will she be able to meet my needs?
I felt so responsible for the well-being of my family. I would remember telling myself, you are a robot, you don't feel anything.
So what is that? Like, what happens?
It's nothing to be concerned about.
She immediately picks up on his anxiety and reassures him. This is what often happens in an anxious avoidant dynamic. The anxious partner reacts emotionally, and the avoidant partner instinctively soothes their discomfort rather than addressing their own emotions. This keeps them stuck in a cycle where her role becomes managing his fears rather than being able to simply express her experience.
I wonder how I could help in that situation.
There's nothing really that anyone can honestly do. I can handle things. It's sweet that you want to be able to help, but it's at the end of the day, it's my responsibility.
He wasn't just asking to be sweet. He was asking out of fear. His question wasn't just a concern for her well-being, if at all. It was a strategy to regain control over his anxiety. He wants to know what he can do, because her emotional unavailability in those moments threatens his sense of stability. Instead of learning how to self-soothe, he seeks external reassurance to manage his distress.
Do you think that that would affect a relationship?
In what way?
In a negative way.
Do you foresee that being an issue for you?
I don't know. It's tough because it's not really in my control.
There it is. This is why I question her belief that he's no longer anxiously attached. His fear is palpable. He's terrified of uncertainty and feels powerless when faced with something he cannot fix or control. A securely attached person would acknowledge their discomfort, but trust that they can navigate it. Instead, he seeks to eliminate his fear by ensuring she won't ever be emotionally unavailable for him. And Madison is right. It is her responsibility. But this is where relationships get challenging, because in relationships, we affect each other. The key is learning how to talk about that in a way that allows us to manage our own emotions without taking on whatever our partner is going through. Relationships work best when both people take responsibility for their feelings while communicating openly what they need.
I think it just comes down to trust.
Yeah.
How much do you trust that I am an aware person, that I'm working on that, that I can handle it.
He continues to bring the conversation back to how it affects him without acknowledging what Madison goes through. There's no empathy, no compassion, just his own fear. Instead of considering her feelings or experiences, his focus remains entirely on himself. This is a red flag in relationships because a healthy partnership requires mutual care and understanding. If someone consistently centers around their own emotions while disregarding their partner's struggles, it can create an imbalance where one person's needs are prioritized while the other person feels unseen and unsupported. And over time, this dynamic can lead to resentment and definitely disconnection.
I think it just comes down to trust.
Yeah.
Like, how much do you trust that, I am an aware person, that I'm working on. I want to know that you can trust me and not just hear me say something and get scared.
Mm-hmm.
She's falling into the reassurance trap. Rather than letting him sit with his own discomfort, she picks up on his fear and instinctively tries to soothe it. She reassures him that she's self-aware, that she can handle it, and that he just needs to trust her. But in doing so, she's reinforcing the idea that it's her job to make him feel safe. The person he needs to learn to trust is himself. No amount of reassurance from her will fix this for him. Until he learns how to self-regulate and sit with uncertainty and build that sense of safety within himself, he will keep turning to his partner for emotional stability. And that's a dynamic that will eventually exhaust both of them. Okay, let's check in with Madison and Mason.
Mason.
I was thinking before I got on this pod, it's man, I really just wish I could cuddle up with Madison.
And here you are. Were the rest of your dates horrible?
Oh, they were nothing compared to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that flattery again, just like we saw with Meg. Flattery can feel good in the moment, but it's not the same as a meaningful, personal compliment. This is why some of you find these dates boring, like I said before, because as humans, we're drawn to moments of genuine connection. When someone consistently leads with surface level compliments, it's worth asking yourself, are they truly seeing me or just saying what they think I want to hear?
What's really weird is there's this girl that I know has a really good connection with you. And I can always tell when she comes out of a date with you.
Yeah.
And that's just the weird part about dating the same person.
Is she just glowing immaculately?
Yeah. I won't say too much. It doesn't bother me.
After Madison sees Meg excited about her date with Mason, she leans into her "it doesn't bother me" stance. This is an emotional defense. When we feel threatened or uncertain, it's easier to act detached than to acknowledge vulnerability. Instead of expressing how she really feels, she claims that it doesn't bother her. If it didn't bother her, why did she bring it up?
Because every ounce of me feels wrong for being in a relationship with multiple women. I don't want to hurt you by doing this.
I don't feel hurt at all. I have one other pretty strong connection. That's the name of the game.
So what does Madison mean when she refers to this as a game? It's unclear, but it just seems like another defense mechanism. As you watch her interact with Mason while discussing dating other people, you'll notice that she progressively shuts down, acting as if she doesn't care, saying it doesn't hurt her at all. However, when emotions become overwhelming, some people cope by treating relationships like a game, focusing on who has the upper hand or who cares less. The problem with shutting down emotions so easily is that it creates distance even when deep down you do care.
Have you primarily been broken up with?
I'm always the person who gets broken up with.
Why do you think that is?
I just don't really like giving up. And I feel like there's been a lot of times where I've been given up on.
What do you think it is?
It's usually from them falling in love with somebody else. You just gotta trust your heart.
Mason doesn't seem very self-aware when it comes to why his relationships keep ending. If you repeatedly experience the same breakup pattern, but never take the time to reflect, you will continue making the same mistakes. This is a big issue. Why do the people he dates end up falling for someone else? We've seen Mason rely heavily on flattery. And as I've mentioned before, relationships built primarily on flattery tend to fizzle out. It was clear that he was uncomfortable when Madison was questioning him about why people break up with him. To be fair, most people struggle with vulnerability. So it makes me question, is he uncomfortable with vulnerability? Is that why he stays surface level? In this situation, though, Madison isn't making it any easier for him. She's emotionally closed off, even when she asks him these deeply personal questions. When we open up and share vulnerable parts of ourselves, we need the other person to be emotionally present with us.
I hate feeling any intense emotion.
Why's that?
I don't know.
Have you been the one to break up with people?
I have been the one to break up with people.
So what I didn't show you is that she says that she breaks up with them because she doesn't put up with bullshit. This should be a big red flag for Mason. He ends up in relationships with people who break up with him. So this should make him pause and ask her more questions like, what do you mean by bullshit? And for Madison, it is a major challenge that she doesn't like to feel her emotions. It was no doubt, though, a survival mechanism for her growing up. It's what protected her. It's understandable. But the challenge that we all have as adults is that what we used as a coping skill or for a survival mechanism that we needed as a child are usually not helpful to us as an adult. So for Madison, avoiding emotions might seem like a strength and a survival, but in reality, it prevents her from real connection. If you can't process your own feelings, how can you fully engage in an intimate relationship? It fits that she's the one who usually does the breaking up with her "I don't need you" stance. It isn't just a way to cope in the moment. It's likely why she ends relationships before she can get too attached. Detachment might feel like control, but it also keeps her from forming deeper connections that she probably craves.
How are you feeling about our connection?
I don't think there's anyone here who makes me feel the way that you make me feel.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I'm not really sure what the point of this conversation was between both of them, but here is something worth noticing. Madison behaves very differently depending on who she's with. When she's with Alex, she leans into offering reassurance, trying to convince him that she's not that person. This is a very familiar dynamic for her. She mentioned having to parent her mom, and when Alex is scared or uncertain, she naturally falls into the role of comforting and stabilizing him, just as she did in the past with her mom. With Mason, however, she appears more aloof, almost robotic, which is something she once told Alex she is capable of being. He might unconsciously remind her of her distant father, and in response, she emotionally shuts down rather than engaging. I mean, I can't say for certain if this is true for her, but her different reactions suggest that her past relationships, especially from childhood, may be shaping how she connects or disconnects in the present. So here's something that we can all take away from this. The way that we show up in relationships isn't always about the person in front of us. It's often about the patterns we learned long before being with that person. And if we don't recognize these patterns, we might find ourselves in the same roles over and over without realizing why. So, what can we do differently? First, start by noticing how you feel and how you act different around people. Do certain dynamics bring out a familiar version of you? If so, take a step back and ask yourself, am I responding to the present moment or am I reenacting from the past? Awareness is the first step toward breaking patterns that no longer serve you. And that doesn't mean that you have to leave the person that you are with now. It just means that you can be aware of familiar patterns and consider how you can change them. Okay, so let's see what's going on with Dave and Lauren. And of course, after that, Dave and Molly.
I think yesterday made me realize I want to be like more guarded in the lounge.
Just be you, Lauren, because you are literally, I say it all the time now, but you are amazing.
You are too.
This is what it is. I'm not going to think you're like being a bitch or like being drama queen over there or anything.
Someone says to you, I'm not going to think you're being a bitch or a drama queen. That is a major red flag. Why? Well, because it shows that he already categorizes women that way. And if someone is capable of seeing women in that light, chances are at some point he will accuse you of being exactly that. And then there's Dave's flattery. You're amazing. I mean, again, it sounds nice, but let's be honest. I don't think he knew what else to say. When you're sharing something meaningful with someone, you don't need vague compliments. You need genuine support. Saying you're amazing might seem like validation, but in reality, it just shuts down the whole conversation rather than engaging with what's actually being said.
You ready to talk about kids?
Yes, I'm pumped to talk this.
My closest girlfriends, we're all 30.
Yeah, you're getting old, so like let's crank this thing up a notch. I'm kidding.
He's not kidding. He has said this to her before, which means it's not a joke, it's a pattern. When someone repeatedly makes comments like this and then brushes it off as, I'm just kidding, it's often a way to normalize disrespect or even expressing underlying beliefs that he would never say outright. What's really happening here? He's being that guy, the one who puts women down, whether he does it to feel superior or keep them on edge or gauge how much they'll tolerate. Jokes that target insecurities are harmful and they reveal how someone truly sees you. If you find yourself justifying or laughing along to avoid discomfort, that's a sign to pay attention. Lauren has a reaction, but then she sweeps it away.
I am like ready in a way, but I know it's hard to visualize kids when you don't have a husband.
Totally, or even a boyfriend. Somebody brought up like when you get your phone back, it's like if you're engaged,
Yeah.
like people are like, oh, I might have to delete some shit.
He completely shifted the conversation from discussing having kids to suddenly talking about the possibility of needing to delete things on their phone when they get back. A few things stand out here. First, why did he deflect the conversation about having kids? That's a significant topic, and avoiding it could mean discomfort or uncertainty, or even a lack of real commitment to the idea. If you ever notice someone doing this to you, circle back and ask them why they changed the subject, or simply state that you would like to continue the conversation. Second, why doesn't Lauren notice that he keeps doing this? If someone consistently dodges important topics, that's something worth paying attention to. And third, why did his mind immediately go to deleting things on his phone? That shift isn't random. It raises a bigger question. How does Dave actually view trust in a relationship? If his first instinct is about hiding something rather than openness, that could reveal a lot about his mindset when it comes to honesty and transparency.
I don't have to delete anything. I haven't like talked to a girl like that in a while.
I don't think I have to delete anything.
No nudes on there.
I mean, those are hidden.
I didn't expect that one.
Really?
Yeah. Teachers.
Teachers? It seems like Dave has a habit of putting people in boxes and making assumptions about who they are based on their profession. Instead of seeing Lauren as a complex individual, he's filtering his expectations through a very narrow lens. He said that he thinks of a teacher as nerdy and someone he wouldn't go for. And by the way, he said that Molly is the type of person that he would go for because she was a dancer. Seriously? This kind of thinking can be limiting and even dismissive of a person. When someone does this, it often feels less about understanding the other person and more about trying to maintain a sense of control or predictability. But real connection isn't about fitting people into neat little categories. It's about staying curious and open about who they truly are.
I could see myself proposing to you. I haven't been in love in a long time, so I kind of don't really know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I'm this like completely different person
Yeah.
in like such a good way. I don't act like this in the real world.
It's interesting that Dave believes that this experience has completely transformed him. While he may feel like a different person in the pods, we know that in the past he hasn't always shown up as his best version of himself because he admitted that. And even in the pods, he hasn't consistently been at his best. A big challenge with the pod experience is that it creates a bubble. You're cut off from the real world, social media, everyday responsibilities, and the complexities of life. It's similar to being on a great vacation. Stress and problems seem to fade away, but that doesn't mean they're gone for good. The real test isn't who you are in an isolated, controlled environment. It's who you are when life gets messy again. Dave seems to be under the illusion that this new version of himself that he believes that he is will carry over seamlessly when he leaves the pods, but that's not realistic. The real world will bring back old habits, triggers, and challenges. And the question is, has he truly changed, or is this just a temporary shift in a temporary environment? If he hasn't even been able to consistently show up as the best version of himself in the pods, what happens when reality hits?
That doesn't scare me, actually, because I'm not talking to anyone else, so.
You're not?
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's new. You did not tell me that.
Yeah.
It makes me feel very, like, not in control, but like very confident.
Well, there it is. Dave likes to be in control because it makes him feel confident, even though he says it's not control, it is. His response reveals a lot about his mindset and emotional dynamics in relationships. Instead of acknowledging her decision with appreciation or clarity about his own feelings, he focuses on how her exclusivity benefits him. His slip from when he said, "I don't mean control," to confident, might mean that he feels secure when he has the upper hand in a relationship. He seems to gain confidence from knowing she's only seeing him while he keeps his options open, which hints at an avoidant attachment style or a need for emotional power, or both. Rather than engaging in a deeper conversation about exclusivity, his response remains surface level and self-focused, likely because of his own discomfort with emotional vulnerability. And that leads to an even bigger question. How does he act in relationships when he's not in control or confident? Some respond with blaming, manipulation, or emotional withdrawal, and Dave has admitted that he hasn't always treated women well, so it's worth considering whether his past behavior was, at least in part, an attempt to maintain power in relationships. If control is what makes him feel secure, then situations that challenge that, like compromise or emotional depth or trust, might expose a side of him that's less about confidence and more about self-protection.
I want my husband to want me the most. I want you to feel like you're making the right choices for yourself.
Gosh, that's awesome. We aren't super emotional people about like all these like dramatic emotions. Like we just want to have fun together.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good.
So there's a lot wrong here. Why does Molly accept so little from him? She passively waits to see if he will choose her without realizing that he isn't even engaging with her feelings at all. He is simply enjoying the benefit of her wanting him. Then he says, "We're not super emotional people with dramatic emotions." But what does that really mean? It does suggest that he's uncomfortable with both his emotions and those of others. That's a big red flag in a relationship. Relationships naturally bring up strong emotions. Through life's challenges, conflict, and emotional triggers, if he isn't willing or able to navigate those emotions, how will he handle the inevitable ups and downs of a real partnership? And if having fun is the main goal in a marriage, then maybe marriage isn't the right choice. Fun is important, but it's not a lifelong goal. A lasting relationship requires more. It requires commitment, effort, and the ability to navigate challenges together. Real relationships are not just about enjoyment. They're about partnership, growth, and showing up for each other even when life isn't fun.
What about religious, political beliefs?
I don't think I need to agree 100% on every single thing.
I totally agree. We all like learn different things, and like to say that one certain belief is so wrong.
Okay, let's end this on a positive note. Yes, emotional maturity does allow for varying opinions. However, like Sarah with Sarah and Ben, she's very passionate about her religious and political beliefs. So in that situation, she wants someone aligned with her, and that's not wrong. She knows what she wants. That's what's important. Knowing what is important to you. Okay, that's a wrap on episode 3. Make sure to come back for episode 4, where I have a lot to share with you. Even though I push for deeper conversations, let's talk about how that can feel a bit frightening and maybe even threatening. I will also discuss how living in a fantasy future can backfire and so much more. And if you found today's tips helpful, give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on love, relationships, and personal growth. See you next time.